And I think it is just about time for us to get started. Hey, I am Coach James, and I want to welcome you to AtTheTrack.live. AtTheTrack.live is the place you want to be for Hot Wheels reviews, Hot Wheels racing, and it is where we are adding new cars to the All About Aerodynamics fleet every week. What is All About Aerodynamics, you ask? Glad you asked, even if you didn't ask. All About Aerodynamics is a science program where I use Hot Wheels cars to teach kindergarten through 6th grade students about physics-related concepts, about aerodynamics, about drag, about lift, about kinetic energy, about potential energy, about Isaac Newton and his 3 laws of motion, about downforce, about lift, about a whole range of topics. After I've taught them the science, then I bring in about 400 different Hot Wheels cars, and each student gets to select a car that they think would be fastest in a series of races. And then after they've picked their car, based on everything they've learned, they let me know why they think this car would be the fastest. We set up a tournament. They set up a 20-foot track. We have drag races, and we find out how their cars performed. They observed, did their car perform up to or below their expectations? And if they had the opportunity, would they pick that car again? We investigate, use the scientific method, and have a good time learning using Hot Wheels cars. That's all about aerodynamics. But this isn't all about aerodynamics. This is At The Track Live. So, what is At The Track Live? I'll tell you about that if you don't already know. At The Track Live, before I can bring in the cars for the students to use, I have to make sure that I know which cars I'm bringing for them to use so that I can keep track of them and bring the same number of cars back for other students to use. And what that means is I have to catalog and number all of the cars. I have to enter the information into a spreadsheet. I take pictures of the cars. I shoot a video. The pictures and videos are pretty much mainly because there's an online version of All About Aerodynamics, and so the students wouldn't have an opportunity to select their car in person, see their car in person. So the video and the pictures help them make more informed decisions about which cars they want to pick. And then, before At The Track Live, what I would do is because like most Hot Wheels collectors, every time I go into a store that sells Hot Wheels, if it's Walmart, Target, the grocery store, whatever, I make my way down the Hot Wheels aisle and check out the cars. And if there's something I see that catches my eye or something I think the students would like, then I pick it up. And because Hot Wheels cars are, basically $1.25, $1.18, I'll pick up more cars than I have a chance to enter into the spreadsheet. So, currently, there are 615 cars officially in the All About Aerodynamics At The Track Live fleet. Unofficially, in storage, I've probably got at least that many, another 600 cars, probably more, in storage. So what I'm doing is trying to get those into the fleet. With At The Track Live, we get new cars into the fleet every week, 6 at a time. So today, I pulled 6 cars, and we're going to crack those open, take a look at them, shoot a picture, take the video, and then at the end, we are going to take those 6 cars, take them out to the track, and there will be a little mini tournament. And we will see which car from that mini tournament comes out on top. But wait, there's more. AtTheTrack.live gives you the opportunity to select a car, because what you can do is you can go to AtTheTrack.live, and then you will have three options. One will be the YouTube stream link. The other will be the Twitch stream link. You don't need those because you're already here. But the third link says choose a car. And if you select that option, choose a car, it will take you to this page. On this page, you will be able to scroll through and find a car that you think would be fastest or faster than one of the 6 cars that I have cracked open. And if you find that car, if you think that this, let's see, this Iridium is the fastest car, you can click on that and you will see a larger picture of it. It's all the cars are sitting on a mirror, so you can see the reflection to see what the base is like. So in this case, we've got a plastic body on a metal base. Sometimes it's the reverse. It'll be a metal body on a plastic base, but this is the car. So if you think this car, the Iridium, is going to be faster than one of the 6 cars that I pulled today, all you have to do is take the number of this car, in this case 198, and drop that into the chat. I'll pull the car, and then we will see if you are correct. And if you pick a car and your car happens to be faster than the 6 cars that I pulled today, then your car will move on to face our fastest in fleet car, our reigning defending champion. And as it stands, that car, our fastest in fleet car, is this one. It is the Group C Fantasy car, and it has been the All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live champion for the past 2 or 3 weeks. I think past maybe 2 weeks. Let me see. Group C Fantasy 603. We're at 50. Yeah, for the past 2 weeks, and it has done a good job. Here's a tip and a something that I mentioned on the pre-show that we had on Instagram, is when you are picking a car, here's one of the things you want to look for: the back end. And you see how it's got this flat back end. That is one of the things that you really want to look for with our track in particular, because our track is not a gravity track like a lot of the Hot Wheels racing channels. Our track is a launcher. It's a flat drag strip, and it's a launch. We have a launcher that I custom created because I wanted to give the cars more force, because when the cars have more force, they move faster. When they move faster, then drag and a lot of the aerodynamic principles that I discuss with the students come into play and are easier to observe. But the launching block, it's a solid block, and it pushes the cars out. So when the cars are lining up, what you want is for your car to press up right against that launching block and to have as much surface area of the car touching that launching block as possible, so that when it gets pushed out, it tends to have a straighter launch. Cars that have a rounded back end or a point, they get pushed out, but then they tend to move to one side or the other. And once they start moving to one side or the other, it's going to be a problem, because then we are going to observe Isaac Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And once the car hits one side of the track, it is going to bounce to hit the other side, and that pattern is going to continue, especially on our track, because there is so much force. And every time the car hits one of those sides and bounces here or there, it is going to slow the car down because of that friction. And ultimately, what will happen is the car that can keep a straighter line is going to have more speed and pass the car that is bouncing back and forth. So one of the things, it's not 100%, but one of the things that is important is that you find a car that has a flat back end. So usually when I'm picking cars, that's the first thing I'm looking at. Because sometimes the students are like, oh, Coach James, pick a car and race. First thing I'm looking at is the back end. So that's just a little tip from me to you. And that's not always the case, which is the fact that there are 615 cars. All of those cars have not raced, or they've raced at different times, and it's more likely than not, that there's a car currently in the fleet that is faster than the Group C Fantasy, but until you pick it or until I crack it open, doesn't matter. Group C Fantasy car is the car. That is the champion, and that is the car that will be waiting for whichever car comes out of our 6-car tournament. And if we have any additional recommendations for cars to pick, then we will have a showdown. So it currently stands, we're going to have 6 cars that I'm going to introduce, and then we have the Group C Fantasy cars. But once again, if you go to AtTheTrack.live and you select choose a car, you will be taken to this page. And on this page, you can go through and you can find whichever car you think could be faster than the Group C Fantasy car or the cars that I've cracked open today. If you think it is, I'm just going to pick a number, 341. Let's see what car is 341. 341, the 2011 Camaro. If you think this 2011 Camaro is going to be faster than the car I've cracked open, all you have to do is take the number. See, this is where all my patience and hard work is coming to play, because all of these cars are cataloged. There are a lot of channels that have a lot of cars, but have they gone through? Have they numbered all of the cars? Have they given you an opportunity to select a car and have it race live? No. You don't have to mail a car to me. You don't have to send in it. You don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is just go to AtTheTrack.live, select choose a car. You've got this page. You can scroll through, find the car you want to race, put that number in the chat, and then I will pull that car and we'll see. Maybe you can find a car that is faster than the cars that I've picked. We have this one, the See You Later. I'm noticing that on the name on the car, I put CULBR, and I have a feeling that B should be an 8, and that would make it the See You Later, which is probably what they meant. This cool one, that's another. I'm gonna have to check on that one. This ice cream truck. I like the design and all of that, but I have a feeling that this car is too wide to fit on the track or fit in the launching. There's a channel that the cars sit in just before they launch, and some of the cars that we've come across, usually trucks or cars that have exhaust pipes, things sticking out of the sides, are too wide to fit on the track. So I haven't checked this one, but I think I will have to do that later, because it looks like these pipes sticking out here are going to make this car too wide to fit in the track. And if that's the case, I need to pull it so that students don't select it and end up disappointed when their car doesn't fit on the track. We've only had that happen a few times, and I've pulled those cars. So I'm just going to write this number down so I remember to check it. 371. Okay. But outside of the cool one, there are so many cool ones for you to pick. And look, we got this 1966 Batmobile, the classic version. And if you're into Batmobiles, this is the place for you, because there are so many Batmobiles in this group. One thing though is you will have to scroll through and find them. Unfortunately, the host, our web host, that we use to build the website's fine, and we've got the catalog and the pictures and all of that, My one problem with the website is the search bar. And I contacted the company this week, and because the search function does not work the way it is supposed to. And so, for example, if I put in Batmobile, you would think I'd get a long list, and there it goes. No results found. So, that's one of the disappointing things with that site, is that it's just, don't use the search bar because it will tell you things that are not true. I know for a fact we have at least 6 different Batmobiles, and I'm trying to get that worked out, because there are so many cars at this point that even I have the spreadsheet, so I can just put the cars in alphabetical order and look through the names. But if you want a particular Lamborghini, there are multiple Lamborghinis in the fleet, but if you use this search bar, it's not going to bring back any results. So I'm looking for some outside options, because the company essentially said, we're working on it, but we don't know when it will be fixed. And in looking at the forums on their website, this is a problem that's been going on for years, that people have been complaining about, and they just have no response and no solution and nothing planned, and that's pretty much where we're stuck. So Google has an option, but then I have to change the plan that I have for the website and all of that, and so I don't know, I'm still looking for a solution. So bottom line is, don't use the search bar, or don't trust whatever. If the search bar says, no, there are no Jaguars, don't trust it, because that is not the case. There are plenty of Jaguars, there's some Ferraris, lots of Corvettes, everything, any kind of McLarens. We have Cadillacs, we have fantasy cars, there's another Ferrari, there's another Lamborghini, there's a Porsche, there's another Lamborghini, there's another Lamborghini. Kids love the Lamborghinis. There's a Mazda, there's another Ferrari, that Matchbox Ferrari. This one is another one that I had when I was a kid. And how can you tell that I had this one as a kid? Well, the ones I had as a kid I played with, and they are pretty beat up, which they should be. I wasn't trying to collect and preserve the cars at the time. I was trying to have fun and play with them. But now, a lot of the cars that I have, the older cars, because I played with them, they are a little bit damaged. The wheels and the axles are a little damaged. I showed this one on the Instagram pre-show, and it's green, so when I turn it this way, it looks like it's disappeared. But there is a car here. It's the Rockbuster from 1975. And if you look at the wheels, you can see they're pointing in 2 different directions, and the axle's bent, and so the wheels don't spin correctly. But again, I played with this a lot, but now the problem is I can't put it on the track to race because the wheels aren't lined up. And there are options to swap out the wheels on these cars, but most of those options involve the wheels that you're replacing them with are rubber, and much nicer wheels, but they're rubber. And because they're rubber, I can't do anything with those, because the rubber, there's too much friction, so they're way too slow going down the track. And I think it's around here somewhere. This Matrix 64 Lincoln Continental has the rubber wheels. I mean, I love this car. This is a great car. But because it has the rubber wheels, can't do anything on the track. Then I found another one of these was a mainline version, and it had the plastic wheels. So then we put it on the track and had a race, and of course the one with the rubber wheels lost. So when I am looking to kind of rehab my older cars, here's another one, this flat out 442, another one I played with a lot. The wheels, the axles are bent and the wheels just don't spin correctly. So at some point I want to swap out the wheels with plastic wheels and get some of these older cars back on the track, but I don't know at this point how to do that. I think I'll probably end up just trying to find someone who's got more experience doing that than I do, and we will have them swap it out. But in some cases, like with this one, with this Roger Dodger, this one that I played with again, it's all beat up. It almost looks like I left it outside, which is quite possible. But again, you can see the wheels are completely, this wheel here is just, it's almost like it's trying to make a turn. So this is no good on the track. But fortunately, some of these cars, like this one, let me see. Sort. You can see. I am going to show you. Roger. Where is it? Oh, there we go. It is car number 405. So, look at this one. This is completely beat up and ragged and destroyed. But then, if we take a look at car number 405, and this should be a lot easier than it currently is. But if we look at car number 405, oh, I missed it. There we go, right here. I fortunately had another version of this. So this is the version, this is the one that I played with. That was the one that I didn't play with. And you can see what a what it should look like. the before and the after. So this is a car that actually can be picked. The wheels are straight and it can go down the track. This one is toast. But if you want to see that other Roger Dodger, if that's the car you think will be faster than the cars I crack open, all you have to do is take the number of that car and drop it into the chat. I will pull that car and it will race against one of the cars that I am about to pull and introduce. So let's go ahead and get to it. We've got 6 cars that are going to be racing today and potentially trying to take out the Group C Fantasy car. So the first car we're going to crack open and take a look at, I got this one recently, this is a newer car, is this one. It is the Delorean Alpha5, and it's a pretty plain looking car. It says solar powered and electric vehicles that prove you don't need gas to speed past the competition. So apparently DeLorean, everybody knows the DeLorean, the Back to the Future DeLorean, and if that's the car you want to pick, I believe there is a Back to the Future DeLorean in that list. So go to AtTheTrack.live, select choose a car, scroll through, find the DeLorean, take the number, drop it in. And see, this is another case where that search function would be helpful. So you don't have to just scroll through to find the DeLorean. You could just type in DeLorean, get the number, put it in. So I got to work on that, but it's not entirely in my control. Nevertheless, that's the old DeLorean. Apparently, this will be a new DeLorean. And I saw a version of this, a prototype at the Peterson Auto Museum here in LA a while back, but it looked more like a concept car, which this may be, but this looks like something that could actually be out on the road. So let's crack this open, take a closer look. All right. And this car I'm feeling it. It's very light, which may serve it very well on our track. Let me get it set up here on the turntable. And let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so here we have the DeLorean. And we will go ahead and shoot this video. And this is lock in that focus. This will be car number 616, and it is the DeLorean Alpha5. And I didn't check the year. So this car, what I was noticing when I picked it up is, so it's a plastic base, it's a metal body, but then because the roof and windshield and back windshield and all of that whole black part on the top is plastic, and then the interior, sometimes the cars have, they put in seats and have a little interior. This, I don't know that it has this, it just feels light and hollow. And I remember we had a car a few months back that was like that. And that might help this car be pretty fast. Got the little DeLorean badge on the front. Okay, so we've got that. And then I just need to take a still picture. So let's stop this from moving. And the still picture and the video are primarily for the students who are participating in the online version of the program, who won't have the opportunity to actually look at their car in person. I think that's a pretty decent view. Lock in the focus and move this just a bit. Okay. All right, so we have the DeLorean Alpha5. And let's see, what's the year on this? Pretty new. Yeah, 2023. And let's see what it weighs, because it feels light. 31.4 grams. And so by contrast, let's see, the Group C fantasy car is 36.2 grams. So the DeLorean is definitely lighter. And I'm trying to see if I can see. There is an interior to the car. So they did put seats, even though it's all blacked out. They did put the seats in there, but it is predominantly just sort of a hollow, almost like a metal O-ring around all of this plastic. So it's pretty light, 31 grams. That might be significant. So we will find out. But that is the first car that's been introduced, the DeLorean Alpha5. So we've got that. Next up, let's see. Let's go fantasy car. And this is one, actually, let me put in the year, 2023. We're going fantasy car for car number 617. And this one is some of these cars have gimmicks. And this one is called the mustache. And basically, well, I'll show you the gimmick in just a minute. And just the old school kind of car right there. hot rod. Let me correct this. So this is new for 2024. So this one I just picked up. I didn't go into the storage for this one. I just bought it at the store recently and decided, let's crack it open because I want to show you the gimmick. Now, we've had cars that have bottle openers on the back. We've had cars that have wrenches on the back, cars that are keychains, and a whole range of weird little things that make the cars fun. Well, this one's got its own gimmick. So let me crack it open. I'll show you what it is. So, this is the mustache car, and if you see right here, this gray channel, it's got a little hinge. You can flip it open, and now you've got a mustache. I don't know why you would walk around with the upside down Hot Wheels and a plastic mustache, but here it is, the mustache. I don't know how this helps the car be faster, but this is it, the mustache. And this is what you get, the mustache. So, this is the car. This is the car, this is the gimmick, and let's take a closer look. We're obviously going to close the gimmick when it's time for the car to race, and now I'm trying to figure out, okay, this is the front of the car. And that's going to be a bad thing because, well, I'll show you. All right, let's take a look at the mustache. Now, first thing, and one of the most important things that I always highlight and point out is, let me see, I might have to bring it around. Well, we'll see when it starts. Well, I guess let me first take the still picture. Let's get that out of the way. But one of the things I want to get at is this back end. That point from the mustache is going to be a problem. And the reason why it's going to be a problem, I just want to turn the car because I definitely want the students to be able to see that so they can see it before they pick it. The reason why it's going to be a problem, take the still picture, is because, like I said, ideally you want the most surface area touching the launching block as possible. What you typically do not want is a car with a point on the back, and this definitely has a point because now when the car is in the launching block, the only part of the car that's going to be touching the launching block is the tip of that mustache that's sticking out. You can see it coming around here, and that is going to most likely lead the car to getting pushed to one side or the other, and it's going to start bouncing back and forth, or it's going to crash altogether. But this is not good. This is not ideal. Now, I could be wrong, which is the whole point of teaching the students the scientific method, is that you have a hypothesis and an idea based on what you've observed previously or what you know, but but you have to conduct the experiment, otherwise you're just speculating. Now, based on all the races I've watched and all the races I've seen and what I've observed on our track and with our launcher, I can't imagine this car doing well because of that point. It's just not going to get the kind of push that I think it's going to need. And if it crashes, I would not be surprised. I will be surprised if it makes it down with no problems or issues, but I can't imagine that being the case. So this is the mustache. That is the second car in our set today. So let's see. we have the Delorean Alpha5, we have the mustache, and we have more cars to enter in. So we went real car, fantasy car. So I think it's time for a real car. And this is one that I've had just a little while. It's probably not too long. But these are popular cars, and I guess I never opened it or brought it to the fleet because I presumed that I had one of these already. Turns out I didn't. But first, well, let me check with the mustache. I just need to get the year off of this one, 2023, and might as well check the weight on the mustache. $31.9. So it's actually as light as basically the DeLorean. So that might help it out a little bit. But back to the next car. It is a reality car, and these cars are very popular. The Nissan Skyline is that an S or a 5? I'm gonna say it's an S. The Nissan Skyline RS. So this is a good looking car. I thought I had one. Turns out I didn't have one in this group. So let's crack this open and see what it looks like up close. Okay. Nissan Skyline. Another good looking car. Let's go ahead and take a look at it right here. Nissan Skyline, as it comes around, focus is already locked in. We will get that. It's got this purple, I think, on kind of a plum color perhaps, but I like that. The gold wheels. As I've said in the past, I'm not a fan when Hot Wheels mixes up the wheels. So as you'll see on the Group C Fantasy, it's got like the spoked wheels in the front and then no spokes in the back, and it's just not. I like a little bit more consistency, but this one they did a good job. They got the license plate, the rear lights, some color to them. This is a good looking car. I like this one, which is probably why I picked it up in the first place. Nissan Skyline RS. Okay, and I didn't check the year on that one, but this is a car. So if we do the same thing and check the back end seems pretty flat, and this looks like a solid car. I don't know if it's going to be faster than some of the others we have, but it just looks solid. Like, I'm pretty sure this will be a competitive car. If it turns out to be particularly fast, I won't be surprised, but we'll have to see. Right now, that DeLorean, just because it's so light, I think if I had to pick just from this small group, we've gotten halfway through, I think my pick would be the DeLorean at this point. I definitely like this car. The funny thing with that DeLorean is, so it's all white and pretty boring looking, and I have a feeling that Hot Wheels will eventually come out with that same car in different colors and with some more interesting colors. But I typically don't like to have duplicate cars, and because I wanted to see this car on the track, I cracked open the white version. So if another better looking version comes along later, then we might have to have a showdown like we did with those Porsches last week. So let me line this up to get this picture taken. And let's see. That looks pretty good. there. All right, and we've got our picture. Let me just check the year on this one, 2017, and might as well check the weight. $29.4 grams, so it's even lighter than the DeLorean. So that might mean something. It's interesting. Typically the cars are in that range of 32 to 36, like right in there. That's typically the range. If they're more than 36, that's starting to get heavy for our track. And if they are under that 31, 30, especially in the 20s, that's very light, especially for a car that is this big. It's not a compact car by any stretch. So this could be interesting. We're definitely skewing lighter. So we have the Delorean Alpha5, we have the Mustache, we have the Nissan Skyline RS, and now, so we've gone reality, fantasy, reality. It is time for a little bit of fantasy for car number 619. So let's go with the West Coast Flyer. The West Coast Flyer. It is a train. It is a hot rod, Hot Wheels train. And the West Coast Flyer. We will see if it is going to be flying. So let's go ahead and crack this open and see what it looks like up close. I'm just looking at some of the markings. It says Hot Wheels Bullet Train. Hot Wheels Bullet 700 kilometers per hour. Okay, we'll see. We'll see what it does on the track. Okay, so I can already tell. So it is a plastic body sitting on a metal base, and the year is 2019. 2019. So let's go ahead and put this here and switch the view over. So here we go, the West Coast Flyer. And let's get, I think that's a pretty good view. Again, I want to give the students an opportunity to kind of get a sense of the back end and the front and the overall shape. So there we go. We've got our picture. And now we just need to shoot some video of the West Coast Flyer as it comes around. Now this definitely sets up because there is another train. It's the Thomas the Tank Engine train, and I think a couple of students have picked that, and it's surprisingly fast. So who knew? But it wasn't fast enough to win the overall tournament at those particular schools, but it was fast. So with this one, let's take a look at that back end. So now the question becomes whether or not that bottom part, that red part that's sticking out of the back, if that is going to press up against the launching block, or is the top part, that rear, looks like the rear edge. I can't tell if they're even, because if both the top and that bottom part are touching the launching block, this thing should get a really good push. Also, the silver train wheels that are in the middle are just decorative and don't actually touch the ground, so those are not really going to be a factor. It's really just going to be the four wheels just like any other car. So let me see with this what it weighs. It is, let's see, it weighs 36.5 grams. So 36.5 grams for the West Coast Flyer, which puts it on the higher end of today's competitors. So let's see. Yeah, we have the West Coast Flyer, we've got the Delorean Alpha5, we've got the Mustache, we've got the Nissan Skyline, and now it is time to introduce another car. We've got 4. We've got 2 to go. You still have time to go to AtTheTrack.live, and if you go to AtTheTrack.live and you select choose a car, you will be taken to our page, O Cars, that has all of our cars listed here. And if you see a car that you think could be faster than the Delorean Alpha5, the Mustache, the Nissan Skyline, or the West Coast Flyer, all you have to do is find that car. If you think it's this Captain Marvel car, you take the number, which in this case is 126, take that number, drop it into the chat. After you drop it into the chat, then we will pull the car, and you will have a chance to find out if the car you picked is faster than the car that we have cracked open. So, what is the next car we are going to crack open? Let's see. So we have the DeLorean reality car, Mustache fantasy car, Nissan Skyline real car, and the West Coast Flyer fantasy car. So now it suggests we should have a real car, but we've got 2 left, and one is possibly a real car. I think it's like a concept car, but we're going to save that one till last because that's the one I'm really looking forward to. So next up, what we're going to do is we're going to go with this one and hope it fits on the track. This is the Terra-Tracktyl, not pterodactyl, Terra-Tracktyl. And this is just a little sport drag truck, and it is going to hopefully not be too wide, because sometimes with the trucks what happens is the back ends kind of flare out, and when that happens they are too wide to fit in the launching channel on our track. So there's like a little channel for each car that they slide into and then they're launched out of, and cars that are too wide get stuck in there and can't race. So we've had that before. We had it last week with the Dodge Zilla, or it was something Zilla, but it was like a little truck. The wheels were out and the fenders flared out and it just wouldn't fit. So this one, hopefully it fits, and if it does, it will be car number 5. So let's crack it open and take a closer look. The Terra-Tracktyl. And this is another one that's new for 2024. So I'm sure the year on this is going to be 2023. Yes, 2023. It appears to be, it seems like, oh no, is this plastic on plastic? This car may be plastic on plastic. So let's take a closer look over here. Get it positioned on the turntable and hope that it is not too wide to race. Comes along, lock in the focus, and we will take a look at the Terra. Lined up a little better. The Terra-Tracktyl, and if it is in fact wide enough to stay. So this is car number 620. This is the TERRA-TRACK K-T-Y-L, Terra-Tracktyl, and I believe the year was 2023. And so one thing I'm noticing as we look at the back end of the car is that rounded back end. Now, if those two wings on the tail, if those stick out past this, which we'll see here, do they stick out further than the rounded edge? No. So that means that rounded part is going to be the only part that's touching the launching block. And as we've said a few times today and many times in the past, that rounded launching, or that rounded part, is going to make it hard for this car to get a good push and launch. But it may help because it's wider, that the launch, even though it's just got that small point of contact with the launching block, when it gets pushed out, because the car is wide, that might prevent it from turning one side to the other and starting to bounce back and forth. Because it's wide, it may not have as much problem staying straight. So we'll see. If it fits in the launching block, this one will probably do better than the mustache, even though the mustache has a smaller point of contact, and that's really the whole thing. Now, if the mustache somehow manages to stay straight, it could probably beat this one, but I don't know. That's why I can't wait to get them to the track. But before we do that, I've got to get a picture. And let's get the photo. Let's zoom in. The Terra-Tracktyl. Let me make sure it's pretty good. Yeah, I think that'll do. Lock in the focus, get the picture. The Terra-Tracktyl. Okay. So let's see what it weighs, because it feels light, even though it's a bigger car. So 35.1. So it's still lighter than the West Coast Flyer, and it is going to be going, I think, again, I can't, on this one it's hard to tell. I guess it is a metal base and a plastic body. It's just the metal, the way it's colored, it's this gray, and it's got a look like plastic, but apparently it's not. Apparently it is metal. So we have 5 cars so far. We have 1 more to go. You still have a little bit of time to go to AtTheTrack.live, go to choose a car, and go to our page and select the car that you would like to see take on either the Delorean Alpha5, the Mustache, the Nissan Skyline, the West Coast Flyer, or the Terra-Tracktyl. But there's 1 more car. So if you find a car in the next few minutes, all you have to do is take that number, drop it in the chat, I'll pull the car, and it will be included in this little mini tournament. But we have 1 more car. This is the car that I'm most excited to see on the track. I'm really hoping that it fits in the launching channel because, I don't know, there's something about it. So I was in Target and I was looking at the cars that were there, and I wasn't really, I had some things in my hand, so I wasn't really digging through the pegs and the racks to see what was there and what was deeper on the shelf. But I started looking up, and I can look at the names of the cars, and I know the names of the cars that I've already picked up and the ones that I've seen before. And then I saw this one. It said Cadillac Project GTP Hypercar. I was like, I wasn't sure. So then I reached in and pulled it out, and it was this one, the Cadillac Project GTP Hypercar. and it's new for 2024, so that's why I hadn't seen it before. But this car is, I don't know, it reminds me of, if you remember, the SR-71 Blackbird or some other cars. I just really like the way this car looks, and I'm hoping that it's not too wide to fit on our track, and I can't wait to crack this open. I can't wait to take a look at it and get it to the track. This is the one I'm most excited about. So let's take a look at the Cadillac Project GTP Hypercar and crack this open. Okay. Oh man, I really hope this fits. I really hope this car fits. This is gonna be this is gonna be devastating to me if this car doesn't fit on the track. So let's take a closer look at this car right here. It's just like it looks almost like a stealth fighter or something. It's got this matte black paint job, the gold wheels, the gold accent around the top, the Cadillac badge, that fin that extends to the wing. This could almost be, not almost, this could be a Batmobile. If you told me that this was a Batmobile for the new movie, I'd say, yeah, okay, I see it. I'm on board. Totally on board. The only question, like I said, is whether or not this car is too wide to fit on our track. I'm hoping it fits on the track, because I love this car. Love the look of this car. So, let's go ahead and get the still picture, which got it lined up here. Boom. Yeah. That's good. Gives the students a good view of the car. Lock in the focus, and there we go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and shoot the video. As it comes around. And now, presuming this car will stay on the track, look at that. Oh man, every angle of this car, it just looks great. But presuming it stays on the or it's wide enough or narrow enough to fit in the launcher. The question now is, will it be fast? And it seems like it should be. I think that looking at the back end, which is usually where I start with a lot of these cars, that wide, flat wing, that should help it do pretty well and get a good push. And it's wide. So if it does fit in the launcher, it's going to be a wider car. And wider cars tend not to have the deviation and bounce around like some of the more narrow cars. So that should help it. The Cadillac Project GTP Hypercar. And I presume this is some concept car for Cadillac. I don't know if they have a racing lineup or what it is, but this car, ooh, just look at it. This is great. All right, so we've got that. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what it weighs in at. So, the Cadillac GTP Hypercar. Ooh-wee. Love it. Weighs in at 37 grams. So this car is metal on plastic. So all of that black part of the car, let's go ahead and turn this off. All of the black part of the car on the, well, I guess it's all black, but the entire upper part of the car is all metal. So all of this is metal. And then the base is plastic. and that is what is accounting for the weight of this car. So let me just double check the year, 2023. So now we have our cars. We have our cars that are going to race today. We have the Cadillac Project GTP Hypercar. We have the Terra-Tracktyl. We have the West Coast Flyer. We have the Nissan Skyline. We have the Mustache. We have the Delorean Alpha5, which is pretty light. And then all of those cars will be competing to see if they can defeat the Group C Fantasy car, which, once again, this one weighed, the Group C Fantasy car, our current champion, weighs in at 36.2 grams. So it's on the heavier end of the cars we have today, but it will be interesting to see how these cars perform. So we are in for what I hope will be a good series of races. I'm not sure how these cars will perform, which is why we always take everything to the track and settle things there. And before we go to the track, let me just remind everyone what exactly you will be seeing when we go to the track. When we go to the track, this is what you will see. You will see a 3-camera setup, and on the view on the far left, that is our start line camera, our launch camera. And you will see the 2 cars in the launcher at the top of the screen. They will be lined up, lane 1, lane 2. I will give a countdown, 3, 2, 1, race. I will hit the switch. The cars will come flying out of the launcher towards the bottom of the first screen. After they pass out of the bottom of the first screen, you can pick them up at the top of the middle screen, which is the center section of our track. The cars will come from the top, flying through towards the bottom. After they pass out of the bottom of the middle screen, you can pick them up on our finish line camera, which is our camera on the far right. The cars will be entering at the top of the screen, and they will come flying down all the way across the finish line. Now, once they cross the finish line, the winning car is indicated with a solid red light. So a solid red light indicates the winning car, and a flashing red light indicates the losing car. So solid red light, winning car, flashing red light, losing car. Also, the cars will, this is the best 2 out of 3 set of races, so the cars will alternate lanes between races, and after they do that, whichever car picks up the win will move on. Now, as for crashes, crashes do happen, and if a car crashes twice consecutively, it is eliminated. If a car crashes once, we simply restart the race and proceed again. Because if a car crashes more than once, it is likely a problem with the car that can't be resolved by simply racing it over and over and over again. So that is it. We've got our cars. We are ready to hit the track. We are ready to race and see exactly which car is going to come out on top, which car is going to be challenging the Group C Fantasy car for fastest in fleet supremacy. So I am going to gather up these cars, and I will, let's see, where is, I'm looking, oh, there we go. I will see you over at the track in about 30 seconds. Okay, so here we are at the track. Let me just double check the audio, make sure everything is good, that we have proper sound. 1, 2, yep, we sure do. Okay, so I want to know, the first thing I want to know is whether or not that Cadillac, oh, hang on, my microphone cord got hung up on something. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. I want to know if that Cadillac will fit in the launcher. That is the big question, and man, I hope it fits. Yes, it fits. Whew, okay. All right, so let's get these cars lined up and see which matchups. Oh, does the Terra-Tracktyl, does it fit? Yes, the Terra-Tracktyl, that also fits. So, all right, we're good. All the cars that we've picked, they all fit. So let's start off with the mustache, because I'm curious with that weird, with the mustache sticking out in the back and that point, what kind of push it will get. So let's go with the mustache and the Terra-Tracktyl, because that also has a curve on the back end, and that could impact the way the car performs, but we won't know until we race them. So let's get them lined up. And we'll go right here with, we'll put the mustache, let's see. Mustache will be in lane number 1. And the Terra-Tracktyl will be in lane number 2. Okay, first race of the day, it is Mustache in lane 1 versus Terra-Tracktyl in lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Okay, so those cars did not seem fast, but they didn't seem fast overall, but they were fast. They were evenly matched. In other words, so that was a good race, and the Terra-Tracktyl took it. The Mustache didn't have as much. It didn't seem to have as much of a wobble based on the launcher and the way the launcher pushed the car out. It didn't wobble around as much as I would have expected, but it did not win. However, it still got an opportunity because we are switching lanes, and we will see what these cars can do. So now we've got the Mustache in lane number 1. I'm sorry, in lane number 2. And the Terra-Tracktyl is in lane number 1. Okay, cars lined up pretty easily. Here we go, race number 2. Three, two, one, race. Oh. Okay, those cars, they seem to have gotten a better launch that time, and the Mustache took the race. So it is now 1-1. Mustache 1, Terra-Tracktyl 1. We will switch sides and see which car is going to move on. So the turns out that that weird little point with the gimmick mustache does not seem to be impacting the Mustache car as much as I would have thought. So we'll put it back, line it up, for this final race. Terra-Tracktyl in there. Okay, the cars are lined up for the third race. Can the mustache with its gimmick mustache take it, or is it going to be stepping aside for the Terra-Tracktyl? Let's see. Third. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. And the mustache came out of the gate and crashed into the barrier, which is something that I actually thought would happen every single time, but that hasn't been the case. So we will just reset, and the cars will race again. Get the mustache set up. Let me go and grab the Terra-Tracktyl. Okay, got that. And let's see how it performs. All right, Terra-Tracktyl. Here we go. Let's get it lined up. It does not adjust the wheels a little bit. That's another thing. These cars, as you've seen, I don't modify the cars at all. They race, they come out of the package, and they hit the track. So no modifications at all. Here we go. This is the third race. We've got the mustache in lane 1. We've got the Terra-Tracktyl in lane 2. If the mustache crashes, it's eliminated. But this is the third and final race, so whichever car wins will move on. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. And the mustache crashed a second time, and it looks like that second crash damaged the wheel, and so now the axle is completely busted and bent. So yeah, there's no way this car is making it. That crash bent the axle. So the mustache is now out of the competition completely and out of the fleet. It cannot race because it has been damaged beyond repair. So that means mustache is out permanently, and the Terra-Tracktyl moves on. I want to say by default, but it's not like the Terra-Tracktyl wasn't already moving down the track at a good pace, so it was good enough. All right, so the Terra-Tracktyl is out, and we are now going to go. Let's go DeLorean versus Nissan Skyline. How about that? I think that'll be the next matchup. Get these cars set up here. Okay, and we will put the Nissan Skyline in lane 2 and the DeLorean in lane number 1. Okay, cars are lined up. Look pretty good. So here we go. Race 1, DeLorean lane 1, Nissan Skyline lane 2. Three, two, one, race. Wow. Okay, I don't know if there was some issue with the Nissan getting off the start line, But it seemed like by the time the Nissan got out of the blocks, the DeLorean was halfway down the track. That was wild. So, that's why we have to do more than one race, because you can't necessarily go off the results of just one race. But wow, that was incredible. So we may have, the DeLorean may be looking to make its mark right now and right here. So let's get these cars lined up. Let's switch lanes. Got the Nissan in lane number 1. The DeLorean is now in lane number 2. Can the DeLorean, was that a, I don't know what to make of that performance. I'll have to see what happens here. Okay, so we've got the DeLorean in lane 2, and we've got the Nissan Skyline in lane 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The Skyline, the Nissan Skyline put up more of a fight in that race, but that was not, it was still not close. It was closer than the first race, but it was not close at all. So the DeLorean, woohoo, making a huge statement and may present a problem for the cars that it has to face down the line. So we will put this one there, this one here. Okay, next up will be the Cadillac Hypercar and the West Coast Flyer. So let's get those lined up. And see, like I said, I'm happy that Cadillac fits on the track. And, you know, usually I'm not biased one way or the other. I just want to see how the cars perform. But for some reason, I really want this car to do well. But you never know, because this West Coast Flyer has an interesting design and setup. So it could, sometimes the unique cars perform in unexpected ways, in unexpectedly positive ways. So you never really know. All right, we've got them set up. We've got the Project, I think it's GTP, or am I thinking of Chat GPT? Well, anyway, the Cadillac Hypercar is ready to go, and that is in lane 2. And then we've got the West Coast Flyer, the train, in lane number 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Oh. West Coast Flyer takes it. Now that the Cadillac, it's a good looking car, it's a great looking car, but as we noted earlier, it's heavy. It is metal, a metal body on a plastic base, and you know, heavier cars have issues. And we just saw that the Cadillac, it was competitive, but it didn't really have the speed of the other cars. So let's go ahead and see. All right. Now switch lanes and put the Cadillac in lane 1. We will put the West Coast Flyer in lane 2. And we will see what happens. Here we go, race number 2. 3, 2, 1, race. And the Cadillac did better in that race and it looked to be in the lead, at least from my perspective, for a while. But then we saw a classic heavier car scenario, which is the heavier cars tend to slow down towards the end of the track and the last third of the track. And that weight and gravity just slow them down, and the other lighter cars blow right past them. So that is, it appears to be, at least from my vantage point at the top of the track, that appears to be exactly what happened. But this Cadillac, this is still definitely one of my favorite cars. It's a Project, yeah, I was right, Project GTP Hypercar. And it's a cool car, but it is not fast enough to be in the next round. So now let's just go with, we'll go with the Terra-Tracktyl and the West Coast Flyer. See which of these two is going to move on to the finals against that incredibly fast DeLorean. All right, so we got that. We will put the Terra-Tracktyl in lane number 1. The West, oh, come on, stay put. The Terra-Tracktyl in lane 2. Okay. All right, we've got those lined up there. And, okay, let's see. Terra-Tracktyl, lane 1. West Coast Flyer, lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Okay, so the West Coast Flyer definitely got a bad launch. I'm not sure exactly why or what happened, but it came out of the launcher very slowly. But since it didn't fly off the track, that race counts. So Terra-Tracktyl is up 1 race to none. Cars will switch lanes and go again, and hopefully the West Coast Flyer will get a better push out of the launcher. You know, sometimes weird things happen, but I would have to go back and look at the video and slow it down to know exactly what happened and what went wrong, how and why. But what we do know is that the West Coast Flyer is down 1-0, and it needs to take this next race in order to force a third and potentially battle the DeLorean in the finals. So here we go, race number 2. Terra-Tracktyl in lane 2 and the West Coast Flyer in lane number 1. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. So the Terra-Tracktyl took that. The West Coast Flyer definitely got a better launch that time, and the race was more competitive, but it did not win, and it is therefore going to be set aside, and the Terra-Tracktyl is going to move on to the finals against the DeLorean. Now, that DeLorean Alpha5, that put on a spectacular performance in the first round. So we will see now as it goes against the Terra-Tracktyl if it can duplicate it with against a faster car, or if it was just looked better because it was facing a slower car, which happens. So we're going to line the Terra-Tracktyl up in lane 2. If I can get it to stay put.
Sometimes the cars are a little temperamental. Okay, we've got the Terra-Tracktyl in lane 2 and the Delorean Alpha5 set up in lane number 1. Get it right up against the block. It doesn't want to stay. Let's try this again. Okay. Got it. All right, so here we go, the finals. DeLorean Alpha5 in lane 1, the Terra-Tracktyl in lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Terra-Tracktyl takes it. So, the DeLorean looked extremely fast in its first race. And as I said, sometimes cars look really fast when they're facing slower cars. So the DeLorean absolutely looked unbeatable in its first race. I think it was against the Nissan Skyline. But in this race, the Terra-Tracktyl took it out no problem. So we will switch lanes and see if that makes a difference. Can the DeLorean come back? So we will put the DeLorean in lane number 2. Line it up. And the Terra-Tracktyl in lane number 1. Okay. There we go. All right, so Terra-Tracktyl lane 1. And we've got the DeLorean Alpha5 in lane 2. It is the final matchup, so let's see what happens. DeLorean is already down 1-0. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. Okay, that was weird. So now the DeLorean repeated the performance that it had against the Nissan Skyline in that first race, where it absolutely destroyed it. Like, that was one of the widest margins of victory we've seen. And, well, that we've seen since the DeLorean destroyed the Nissan Skyline. So, it's tough to know whether or not these cars are just getting weird pushes out of the launcher. Something's happening when they come out. Are they bumping into the barriers? The cars come out with so much force and so quickly that it's oftentimes that we need to look at the video footage and slow it down to see exactly what happened. So that is something to look at. But right now, the real question is, can the DeLorean, what is the DeLorean? Is it this track monster that can just destroy other cars? Or is it just an average Hot Wheels car that can win some and lose some? I don't know. I just don't know, because it's lost. The race that it lost to the Terra-Tracktyl, it didn't look all that fast. But then, in this next race, it looked like it couldn't be beaten by any car. So, this is a really tough call. Let me just double check everything on the track. There's no issues with the barriers or barricades. Everything is lined up the way it should be. So we will see here. One of these cars will be today's champion and will move on to race the Group C Fantasy car. Which car? I do not know. I really don't. So let's get this race out of the way and see what happens. just making an adjustment to the Terra-Tracktyl. Three, two, one, race. Great race. The Terra-Tracktyl takes it by a small margin. That was pretty close. The Terra-Tracktyl held on. I thought the DeLorean would catch it there at the end, but it did not. And as a result, we now have our champion for the day, which is the Terra-Tracktyl. And the Terra-Tracktyl is going to now face the Group C fantasy car to find out which of these cars is going to be the fastest in fleet. Is it going to be the Group C fantasy car? Will it stay and remain champion? Or will it be the up-and-coming Terra-Tracktyl? A car which, interestingly enough, we weren't even sure if it was going to fit into the launcher. That's how close. I mean, it just fits in, but it was close. I wasn't sure it was going to fit. And then with the rounded back end, I wasn't sure what kind of launches it was going to get. Was it going to be able to even stay on the track and not bounce around constantly and lose momentum as a result of the friction? But it's outperformed my expectations, and here it is, today's champion. It is facing off against the Group C fantasy car, which is our current fastest in fleet champion. And let's see what happens. Race number 1, we've got the Group C fantasy car in lane 1. We've got the Terra-Tracktyl in lane 2. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. Terra-Tracktyl does it again. And so the Terra-Tracktyl is doing some things on this track that we have not seen in a while, namely beating the Group C fantasy car. So now the Group C fantasy car is in a tough position. It's got to come back and win 2 races in a row, which we've seen cars do in the past, but that's asking a lot. So here we go. The Group C fantasy car has been the champion for the past 2 weeks, but is its reign about to come to an end? Quite possibly. So the Group C fantasy car is in lane 2. The Terra-Tracktyl will be in lane 1. And we will see which of these cars is going to be the fastest in fleet champion. So here we go. Terra-Tracktyl lane 1. It's already up 1 race to none. If it takes this, it will be the fastest in fleet champion. Group C fantasy cars in lane 2. Ready to go. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. The Group C fantasy car barely held on to take that race. The Terra-Tracktyl was right on its heels. So the Group C fantasy car has pushed a 3rd race. But is that going to be enough? Just double checking something here. Everything's good with the track. These cars are running well. And this is going to determine which car is it's going to determine which car is today's champion, which we already know, that's the Terra-Tracktyl. But it will determine which car is going to be the fastest in fleet moving forward, representing all about aerodynamics and AtTheTrack.live. So now, the Terra-Tracktyl lines up in lane number 2. Group C Fantasy in lane number 1. If I can get them to stay in position. Okay. So this race will determine which car is the fastest in fleet champion. And here we go. One race to one race. Best 2 out of 3. Here we go. Three, two, one. There it is, folks. We have a brand new fastest in fleet car. It is the Terra-Tracktyl. The Terra-Tracktyl is the new fastest in fleet car. The Group C Fantasy car put up a good fight, but it could not overcome the Terra-Tracktyl, which has to be one of the more surprising cars. But let me gather these cars up, head back into the garage, and take a look at our new fastest in fleet car. And here it is, the Terra-Tracktyl, the fastest in fleet car. I don't know what to say. Of all the cars that we had ready to race today, this was the last car, the absolute last car that I thought had a shot at not only winning the mini tournament. There's no way I thought it was going to win the mini tournament, but then on top of that, it beat the Group C Fantasy car to become the fastest in fleet champion. And I don't know, this was an interesting set of races, because we had this car, the Terra-Tracktyl, with that round back end, which sort of defied the conventional wisdom, because usually cars with a round back end or some kind of part of the car that comes to a point, they don't do well on the track historically. But the thing is, this car, while it had the rounded back end, it also had, it was wide. And so usually cars with the point, kind of like the mustache, cars with a small point that touches the launching block, when they get pushed out, they either go from one extreme to the other, basically. I mean, for lack of a better explanation. And they bounce from one side to the other. When the launcher pushes them out, they just, it's hard to explain without, I'm gonna have to shoot a video to show it. But when the cars get pushed out, let's say we're looking top down. When the launcher pushes the car out, if the car just has a small point of contact, the cars tend to move to one side or the other when they get pushed out. They get pushed out,
and they hit this side, and they bounce back this way, and this, and they do that all the way down the track. But when cars have a wide, flat back end, they get a more consistent, solid push, and they tend to go straight up the track. So with this one, because it had the rounded back end, I'm thinking, okay, it's going to bounce around the track, similar to what happened with the mustache. But that's not the case. What actually happened is that the car being so wide, the width of the car was able to help correct for any kind of deviation it may have had because of the rounded back end and the weird push. So it didn't really have a chance to go sideways because it's so wide that it was able to just maintain a straighter path. And that seems to work out. But now, when we talk about wider cars, and also, let me remind myself what the weight of this car was. 35.1. So the Terra-Tracktyl was 35.1, but we had this car, the Project GTP Cadillac Hypercar, and I think what hurt this car in the races is the fact that it is not all metal, but predominantly metal. All of that matte black that you see on the top, that's metal, and it made this one of the heavier cars that was racing. So I think if it had been the reverse, if that part had all been plastic and this car had been sitting on a metal base, then it would probably have done a little better than it did. It did make it down the track. It is just wide enough that it can make it down the track, and it's still a great looking car. It might be one of my favorite Hot Wheels of all time, but I'd have to think about it. But this is a really good looking car. But because of that weight, that metal on metal situation, we had a car that weighed in at 37 grams. So that's significantly heavier than most of the cars, although with the Terra-Tracktyl, it's 35 grams. So the weight wasn't necessarily the thing, but you can just tell, just holding the hypercar, you can just feel that it's heavier. It's definitely got more weight to it. So the metal body on a plastic base makes for a great looking car, but didn't help it out on the track. And then we had our casualty of the day, which was the mustache. And you can see right here that when it crashed and hit that barrier, the axle just completely bent, and that was that. And now this car is going to have to be given away because I can't. I suppose I could try and fix it. This could be the one that I learn how to do wheel swaps on, but it's unlikely. So that crash bent the axle, but it also goes to show exactly how much force the launcher, because this is a custom launcher that I designed and created and had 3D printed, and it is just a testament to the force that these cars fire out with, that it can crash and the axle can bend to this degree. So this car is now going to be set aside, and if I find another one in the stores, then I will pick it up, which I should be able to, because this is a new, I believe it's one of the, I think it had the new for 2024 designation on it. So these should be showing up in stores a lot, and a lot of the Hot Wheels collectors, the serious Hot Wheels collectors, aren't interested in gimmick cars, fancy fantasy gimmick cars. So I'm pretty sure I'll be able to pick up another of these sometime in the very near future. But for now, the brand new, reigning, defending conquering champion on this WrestleMania weekend is the Terra-Tracktyl. And it also has the distinction of being the first truck to have our fastest in fleet title. To this point, it's been entirely cars, and here we go. This is it. So if you think that you can find a car that is faster than the Terra-Tracktyl, all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live, go down to choose a car, and scroll through the list. And when you find the car that you think is faster than the Terra-Tracktyl, all you have to do is take the number on that car and drop it into the chat. I will pull the car and we will take it to the track and see if you are correct. Is your car faster than the Terra-Tracktyl? I don't know. We will have to find out, and there's only one way to find out, and that's to take the cars to the track. So next week I will find 6 more cars, and they will hit the track, and we will see if there is one that can challenge the Terra-Tracktyl for all about aerodynamics at the track live track supremacy. But I don't know. This was a surprise. This was definitely a surprise, and of all the cars, I definitely did not expect to be sitting here at the end of the day talking about the Terra-Tracktyl. So it is always there are always surprises with At The Track Live, and you never know until you race the cars. So during the week, you should, if you're not already, follow us at AA Aerodynamics, and that is where you will find information about all of the upcoming races, about all of the sometimes I do previews of the cars that are going to be appearing on Saturday to race, and that gives you a little heads up, a little time to plan to figure out which cars are going to be racing, so that when you make your pick, then you'll already have a little bit of inside information. It won't be a last minute thing where you're scrolling through that entire page trying to figure out which car would be best to select. So I think that is all. Also, if you would like more information about all about aerodynamics, our science program that uses Hot Wheels cars to teach kindergarten through 6th grade students about physics and aerodynamics and a whole range of concepts, then all you have to do is go to our website, aaerodynamics.com, or you can just go to the link in the bio, and you can, or the link in the Instagram bio, and I'm pretty sure in the YouTube bio link there's information there, and you can get all of the information you need to contact me and find out more about our program and everything that we are doing, including the online version of All About Aerodynamics, which this summer I will be sharing out links so that you can sign your student up to take our class, and anything else that you want to know. But you can join us every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific for At The Track Live, where we will crack open new cars, add them to the fleet. We are currently up to 621 cars, which is a lot of cars, but there are more to come, and you have the opportunity to pick one of those 621 cars and race it against the cars that we are introducing to the fleet. So that is all for today. So for At The Track Live, for All About Aerodynamics, I am Coach James, and until next time, I'll see you at the races.